Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, over a dozen people are killed in a double suicide attack on Libya's electoral commission in Tripoli. Democratic polls are due later this year, and Islamic State extremists say that they're behind Wednesday's bloodshed. Also, a series of appeals of two former Rwandan mayors begin in Paris. Octavien Genzi and Tito Barahira were sentenced to life imprisonment over the 1994 genocide. And in the first of our series of reports looking at Tunisia's preparations for this weekend's first post-revolutionary democratic elections, we hear from some of the independent candidates running in the hope of shaking up the country's political landscape. But first, Islamic State group extremists say that they're behind a double suicide bombing attack on Libya's election commission in which at least 14 people were killed. The country is still politically and socially unstable, 7 years after the uprising that toppled former leader Muammar Gaddafi. Islamist militants have been trying to disrupt democratic elections planned for later this year.
Chaos following a deadly suicide attack in the Libyan capital. Two suicide bombers entered the country's electoral commission on Wednesday morning, which is located in the western part of Tripoli. The attackers shot people inside the building before detonating their explosives. The explosion also started a fire in the building. Interior Ministry special forces were dispatched and a security perimeter was quickly set up. Later, the commission president issued a statement saying the building had been heavily damaged, but that a copy of voter data was, quote, stored in a safe place. The IS group issued a statement later on Wednesday claiming the attack in Tripoli. In the past, the IS group has called for attacks on voting infrastructure in Libya. Although Libya has seen several waves of unrest and attacks since the uprising in 2011, this is the first significant attack in the capital Tripoli in recent years. Until Wednesday, violence in the capital had only involved limited clashes between armed groups. The United Nations and Libya's foreign backers are urging the country to hold elections this year, despite the ongoing security problems.
Central African Republic scheduled 3 days of national mourning from Thursday for the 24 victims of renewed sectarian violence in the capital. Many, including a priest, were killed on Tuesday in an attack using guns and grenades on a church in Bangui. That happened on the border of the predominantly Muslim Piquet 5 neighborhood, which has seen several deaths as peacekeepers target criminal gangs. President Faustin Touadéra has accused local militia of trying to inflame religious tensions. A mosque was also torched after the church was attacked and local Muslims reportedly killed. Religious leaders have called on communities to put their differences aside.
Let us overcome evil through good, and we must overcome by proposing good, which means love, forgiveness, reconciliation. May no one give in to anger, reprisals, nor to mixing things up, nor to confusion. Muslims and Christians, we are one people. We must work hand in hand to build the Republic of Central Africa.
Well, here in Paris, the appeals court hearing of two former Rwandan mayors sentenced to life in prison in France opened on Wednesday. The men were convicted in 2016 for the parts they played in their country's 1994 genocide, in which hundreds of thousands of Tutsis were killed by ethnic Hutus.
Tito Barahira on the left of the screen and Octavien Genzi were arrested in France a few years ago. In 2016, they were sentenced to life in prison for their role in the genocide of the Tutsis in Rwanda in 1994. With this new trial, they hope to have their sentence reduced.
De cet appel, on espère de la justice française qu'elle
We hope that the French court will be independent and that it will really look at who my father was, what he did in the context of the war, and the genocide that was carried out.
The plaintiffs hope the initial verdict will be upheld.
Since they've changed lawyers, they might have a different line of defense. I think today we're not too worried, but you know, sometimes criminal trials can change dramatically in just half a day. So we're going to remain vigilant.
Genzi's lawyers wanted Belgian researcher Philippe Reintjens to be questioned during the trial, but he does not wish to come. He says in France the history of the genocide is too controversial and sensitive. Paris is accused by President Paul Kagame's RPF of having supported those who committed the genocide.
Pretty criticizing the RPF is seen as a support for the French or the French honor, while criticizing France is seen as a support for the RPF, while it is perfectly possible, as I do, to criticize both France and the RPF.
Petraitian says he might be ordered to go to the trial. Researchers like him condemn the genocide of the Tutsis, but also the war crimes committed by Kagame's forces against Hutus, especially in neighbouring Congo, crimes that have been listed in UN reports.
Well, communities on both sides of the border between Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon have welcomed the partial reopening of the crossing. Now, that was shut in the wake of a failed coup attempt in Equatorial Guinea last December, making trade and travel difficult for locals.
A monstrous traffic jam greets visitors into KOC, a border town between Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea. After several weeks, the border has finally reopened, but people and goods can only go through twice a week. 4 months after an attempted coup, security is still tight. Officials in Malabo believe about 30 commandos entered the country through KOC before staging a coup attempt on Obiangema Mbazogo on the 27th of December 2017. Although limited crossing is now possible again, locals say the terms aren't clear.
They say the border has been reopened. They say we can go in and out Wednesdays and Fridays, but that's not the case because this is Friday. I am travelling and they asked for 5,000 CFA francs, which means that there is no difference.
But even partial reopening of the border can make a big difference to market traders in KOC. Many say they have been hit hard by the disappearance of their customers.
The border was closed. This place was like a desert. Many people have gone back to their village. We thank God the government managed to give us 2 days per week.
The area is of increasing strategic importance to the Guinean military, and a new base is currently being built close by.
We were the only border town without the highest security force, and the government responded positively and installed a military base a few weeks ago at Anbam.
The tightening of security will hopefully lead to the complete reopening of the border between Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea once again, and allow for the free movement of goods and people crucial to the local economy.
Well, Tunisia is gearing up to hold its first municipal elections since the 2011 revolution. Now, that's this weekend. It's not just political parties trying to win over voters. 850 candidates, or 40% of all lists, are running as independents. Many are trying to offer a different perspective on politics. Lilia Blaise, Hamdi Tlili and Fadil Aliwiza report.
He's one of the only independent politicians who's managed to win an election in Tunisia. Before becoming a member of parliament, Yassine Ayari was a cyber activist. His reputation has continued to grow since the 2011 revolution, and he believes the trend of independence doing well has only just begun.
There is a desire, a real desire to punish the existing political class, the fact that I'm young also, the fact that I'm an engineer. I think there's a need, a thirst for new faces, especially after the bitter failure of those who are governing today. So all of that together made sure I was elected.
Following the footsteps of Ayari, independents are going for it in the municipal elections. Many have roots in civil society and have never tried politics before now.
There, with this, you have an idea about our list.
The municipality should have a clear majority of people who are acting in civil society. We think the municipality is there to serve citizens, to work in the field. It shouldn't be too much about politics.
The desire to get involved is clear even among young people, many of whom expect little from politicians these days. In Rgeb, in the center of the country, a group of unemployed youth cobbled together an electoral list with what little means they have.
We work with the help of our friends, those who have chairs, printers, T-shirts. They bring them to us. And that's how we managed to put together this list.
This lack of resources could cost them at the polls, especially when up against political heavyweights in Nahda and Nida Tunis. They're the only parties that managed to put forward lists in each of Tunisia's 350 municipalities.
All the independent lists don't really have the resources that allow them to achieve a breakthrough, and in the end, the biggest winner will be voter abstentions, and the second winners will be Ennahda and Nida Tunis.
Despite the projections, the proportional voting system gives independents a chance to win some seats in the municipal councils, a way to make their presence felt even if they fail to take power.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.
Down to Earth, presented by Florence Villeminot.
The Arctic is going to be exploited, and the scale of this exploitation will only grow.
We have a beautiful planet, we need to protect it, and we can use space exploration to better understand it.
Now we've moved from, is that real, to what do we do about it?
Join us on Down to Earth, where we explore the incredibly complex relationship between humans and our planet. We're here to ask the tough questions and find answers that may just surprise you.
Down to Earth on France 24 and France24.com.